Hello viewers and welcome to New Zim TV on the program The Profile, and today we are looking at the issue of drugs, and with me in the studio is Mcleo Mapfumo, who is former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Association, and currently he is the Deputy Director of International Youth Society. Mcleo, hello and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right, briefly before we get into the issue of drugs, we want to know, well, you are former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Association, and currently you are the Deputy Director of International Youth Society. We want to know, what do you do?
Basically what I do is I've been involved with the United Nations internationally in trying to bridge the gap between the United Nations and the ordinary youth in society. If you look back, the United Nations was just a big organization, and not everyone was able to get or penetrate to it. But now, because of such associations, we've been able now to close that gap and make sure that whatever young people say, it has an impact to the United Nations, and it can shape many governments across the world today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, today we are discussing the issue of drugs. They like to take drugs. What is your take on the issue of taking drugs?
I think if we use the word drug alone, it doesn't take us anywhere. But the whole situation now is it's the issue of drug abuse, alcohol, and substance abuse. So it comes into three phases. There's the drug issue, there's the alcohol issue, and the substance issue that the young people of today are abusing. So if you look at the issue of drugs, I think Southern Africa, especially countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe, many young people have been affected, and it's affecting our demographic dividend because of the issue of drugs that we are going to talk about today.
Indeed, if you are just joining us, we are with Mcleo Mapfumo, who is a Deputy Director of International Youth Society. You can also log on to our website, that is www.newzimbabwe.com, and you can follow us on Facebook, which is the one that you are following now. We are also on Twitter at newzimbabwe.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is New Zim TV. Now, back on the issue of drugs, you know, some people, youths, who say that they take drugs probably because they've got nothing to do. They do not have, they're not going to work. So they resort to drugs. What do we have to say to them?
I think what I can say, maybe if we go backwards a bit, if you look at the institutions that are supposed to bring about a person in society, most of those institutions, they are broken. If you look at some of the young people, they've not been able to attend school. Most of them, they do not have proper shelter. Most of them, they do not have proper clothing. So if you don't pass through that normal institution that every child is supposed to pass through, where you live in a good home, with good family, in a good society, you go to school and you go to church. But most of us have not passed through that institution. So we tend to take shortcuts. I was not able to go to school. So because I was not able to go to school, I spend most of my time doing nothing, and that gives me an idle mind. And if you look at the pressure that is also coming also within the society, it's also leading to make sure that young people are partaking into issues of drugs. We also look at the issue of the economics of the country. Also leads and also contributes a lot to the issue of drug abuse to young people.
Right. You mentioned something about church. Okay, so yeah, as you heard him, he said you should maybe at least go to church. If you do such things. So we are here with Mcleo Mapfumo. He is talking about drugs. He is former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Association, and currently he is the Deputy Director of International Youth Society. So he is saying no to drug abuse. Actually, drugs, I know they can actually lead to death, and if you walk around, it does not affect the person who's abusing them, even others. For example, we have got parents, you know, so I hear what you say, and I understand. Now we move on to another issue. There's the issue of the music that the youths, listen to, which is Azim Danso. Well, I'm not saying Azim Danso is bad. I actually listen to Zim Danso. I enjoy Zim Danso. Mangoma ndoto mafarira kumangoma deputy. Now, there's music. Yeah, Zim Danso, like I said. There are some lyrics and the discourse that they sing. Ndakaro wane brongo nditunga mire. You see, so Mageto youth man, when they listen to that, they will start to think kut unzwa kanyanya. You have to take drugs. What do you have to say about that?
I think you've given an example of saying Zim Dancehall.
Yes.
Zim Dancehall is music.
Yes.
And I think you understand when you're still in primary school, in secondary school, most of the young people always aspire to become musicians.
Sure.
So as we aspire to become musicians, we tend to have musicians who we adore a lot, we look upon as role models. And now if you look at the instant of Zim Dancehall, it's very easy for young people to follow what they see on those videos or to follow what they hear from this kind of music. That's why you notice that it has become so easy for the issue of drugs to just roam around through the community, to roam around through the city, because it's there, it's preached about, it's talked about. And if I haven't experienced it, when someone sings about it, that it has a certain effect on me, it also makes me now try to emulate or try to copy that and see how it will make me feel. That's why you also notice that not only in music, but also in sport. And if you look at our current Premier Soccer League, they've now introduced that anti-doping mechanism or anti-doping system, where all the players will go through those regular checks to see if they are performing, beyond or above expectations. Right. So it's affects, even if it's music, even if it's sport, the issue of drugs is still affecting many young people.
Okay, so are you saying the Zim Danso musicians, they should maybe at least change the discourse and try to maybe sing about something that is that is more progressive, if I should say?
I think if I had to put it that way, then maybe it will destroy the whole issue of creativity and being an artist.
Sure.
So sometimes we do not understand, or we do not know what drives an artist to come up with a certain component or certain type of lyrics. So we need also maybe to understand, because if we tell them that they should just sing things that are socially correct, that are socially right, it does not mean that everyone in society wants to be morally upright. Others actually believe in being deviant in society. Okay. So they would actually want. So we cannot control now people in terms of what they sing, because even if we try and control them, right now we've got. If you look at the internet that we are using, it's easy for me to sing and record my own personal song and then send it to people through various media platforms. So for us to control that now, it becomes difficult. And also, since as a country we don't have a drug policy, it's very difficult also for us to tell someone not to do something. Because if we had a drug policy, it would regulate everything that it has to do with drugs. It would control everything that has to do with drugs.
So you actually want that drug policy to be maybe implemented and try to control the situation?
Yeah, that's the only solution that we can have in trying to control this whole drug issue, because as it is right now, it's not looking good.
Okay, and there you have it. Well, Mcleo Mapfumo is actually saying we cannot control what musicians want to sing. They can sing anything that they want to sing, even Rebrongo Shama drugs, but we should not take that and try to put it into practice, because the musicians will be doing their job as musicians. They have to sing, they have to entertain. If you follow Anasoja Love, they sing Tirima entertainer, they are entertainers. So some of the things that they sing, if they sing about drugs, we are not supposed to follow that. That is what Mcleo Mapfumo is saying. Now moving on, I want to understand, why is it we have issues, my youth, why is it they are the group in the society which abuses drugs?
I think a famous quote once said that if youth are left on the margins of society as bystanders, they become radical.
Yes.
So if you look at the population, almost 60% of the whole population, they're the youth. And passing from that phase, from I think from 12 years up to 36, you go through a lot of things, a lot of pressure, a lot of things, trying to fit in into society, not to be left as outcasts in society. So through that phase now, through that whole period, we are bound to go through a lot of
peer pressure.
Peer pressure can also be part of that. That's why you notice now that the whole issue of drugs is actually affecting the young people. And I still remember, I think 2013 to 2014, I once carried out a small research for the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, especially focusing on drug abuse for many young people here in Zimbabwe. And we came up with an ad hoc research where we saw that 65% of mentally challenged young people are as a result of drug and substance abuse that's affecting them. So we are saying 13 youths out of 20 who are mentally ill are affected by what? By the issue of drug abuse. In 5, maybe we came up with 5 hotspot areas that we saw, and that made us come up with the 65% that we had in that situation.
All right. Oh, interesting. We are discussing here issues to do with drug abuse, particularly by the youths today. And with me here is Mcleo Mapfumo, who is former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Association, and currently he is the deputy director of International Youth Society. Now, we see you are the deputy director of International Youth Society. Pertaining this issue of drugs, what have you been doing to try and control the situation?
Of late, I think this is just a recent appointment, so I can't say I've actually done much.
Okay.
But from the previous experiences, like the example that I gave you on the ad hoc research that we carried out, we have been trying to lobby those who are involved to see what they can do possibly. But I'm sorry to say this, it's just, I think, a waste of time, because if we look at how drugs are coming into the country and how they are going into the market, a lot of issues are involved there. So it will be difficult for us now to pinpoint directly to the young people and say you're not supposed to take these drugs. Because at the first, we should ask ourselves this question: where are the drugs coming from and how are they coming into the country?
Yes.
And if you look at most of the drugs,
like cocaine,
made drugs like marijuana, those are drugs that can be even made, that can be done at your own backyard. But we have other drugs that are coming, like the recent one is called the LST, but it only targets sweating areas. So if you notice in most of the clubs, when people try to maybe lure young girls into prostitution or other activities, they just target the sweating areas, and then they put those drugs, I think it's more of like small stickers. And once it has connection with sweat and human body contact, someone is already induced with drugs. So you have those drugs, and you should ask yourself that question: where exactly are those drugs coming from? So if you look at it also at a legislative approach, we are found with a truck full of drugs, bronco, whatever. What is being done to those people? Nothing. And we have nothing on record where we can actually have people who are actually be facing the law as it is for maybe found in possession.
So the law is letting us down.
So I think the law is letting us. Yes, we might blame the young people, but the law is letting us down, and the institutions that we have in this country are not there. Look at the issue of rehabilitation. We have little or no rehabilitation centers, and most of those people, young people who are affected by drugs, they are also affected by stigma, because they don't want to come out in the open, especially to get help. And because we are not helping them, the situation is actually getting worse and worse and worse. That's why you notice in town, after hours, if you walk around, you find a lot of young people sleeping on the roads. Early in the morning, you find a lot of people sleeping on the roads, on the ranks. No, people just ignore, and then they just walk away, because we don't have the proper institutions that these young people should go through that rehab process. So to blame the young people, I think, 10%, but 90% it goes to the legislative authorities.
Okay. Speaking of that, how tough should this be? I mean, yes, you spoke about the drug policy. You've been talking about the legislative, like you said. How tough should the law be on those who are found in possession of drugs and things like this?
It has to be very tough. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about the young people who use drugs. I'm just pose a question to them right now. Let's say they try to go to a country like New Zealand and Australia.
Yes.
And notice what happens at the airport if you're found in possession.
You'll be in serious
drug.
trouble. Yeah.
You'll be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
That's why you notice that whenever you want to visit those areas, even when you apply for your visa, whatever, some of the questions that they are very, very
particular about, yeah.
It's regarding the issue of anything that might affect the people in that country. So you
Right.
notice if we don't have anything of that sort, we are a bit lenient. Because right now I might see you with drugs, but tomorrow I'll see you again and say, it's just
something.
So I think it's not an issue.
It's not
an issue. Because if it was an issue, I think it would be very tough.
Right, I understand in Dubai, you will be sent. I think there's a death sentence for something like that.
Yes.
Would you want something like that in? You don't want to be.
But I think if you look at the alarming maybe statistics that I've highlighted.
Sure.
Yeah, if I was maybe to get to that certain point, I think if it would help maybe for the first few years, just to make sure that people are aware that this is not allowed, then I think it would actually work out. Because I'm now worried about the younger generation.
Sure.
You know, the children in primary school, most of them, they're empty CDs, they're empty flash, they have nothing in their minds. So it's easy for them to record things into their minds as they see people in high school or the youths in their community, what they do.
Yes.
So it's easy for a grade 7 to quickly emulate what the Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4 is doing. So we need to cut that to make sure that they
lead by example.
Positive, and they should lead by what?
By example.
So if I want to be like a certain artist and I see that artist always intoxicated with these drugs, then obviously I'm bound to try it also. Right. Especially when I'm bored and maybe when you're depressed. And doctors actually urge people, like if you're depressed, you are not actually supposed to take alcohol, because alcohol is a depressant. So if it's a depressant, it pushes everything down and then you feel okay. But as soon as you finish, you always want to drink more and more and more and more and more. But already you're affecting your health.
All right, but I hear you, but someone might argue that when I take my beer, when I take my alcohol, maybe for that, for that short period of time, I would have forgotten all my troubles. Someone would say, you know what, Sha, I would just want to take a beer, or maybe 2, 3, 4, and maybe kabrongo, so that I forget about my worries. Then when I wake up, totangira ipap. That's what they normally say.
I think maybe because this is a platform, it would also be interesting if we could also engage in a debate with someone who actually
drinks
in that manner, and then try and debate to see where exactly they are coming from. Because maybe yes, we might debate for this discussion's sake, but we don't know where they are coming from. So yeah.
All right, there you have it. For those who are following us, we are live on Facebook. We are discussing the issue of drug abuse as well as alcohol abuse. And with me in the studio, I have Mcleo Mapfumo, who is former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Associations. And currently he is the deputy director of International Youth Society. He is saying for those who drink and those who take drugs, you should engage, you should maybe interact with us. We are live here on Facebook. If you post a comment, we'll see it and he will respond to that. Now moving on, there's the issue of addiction. Someone might say, you know what, I also want to stop this drug thing, but I can't. You hear someone say, you know what, if I don't take prongo, so I'm going to tema, we have a headache. What do you have to say about that? Is there a way that maybe you know that they can stop drugs?
I think, like I highlighted before, on this issue, maybe there are 2 points that I would maybe like to raise. The first is the treatment rehabilitation center, and the second one is the detection and interdiction.
Yes.
So you notice that if we don't have, like again in the community, a system that can treat people, especially as they detect the early phases of addiction. If you don't have that system, yes, by word of mouth or maybe by just using your head, it's easy for you to just say, but I felt good when I took bronco. I felt good when I took the what sort of drugs that I might have took. I felt good, but because we don't have now that treatment rehabilitation center, it's difficult for us to deal with that issue. That way, you also notice even in most athletes, I try my first race, I've taken a lot of drugs,
Sure.
and then I try my first race, I beat everyone. Now, because of that urge that I have and that overwhelming experience that I had when I was in that track, it's going to allow me again to continue taking that same drug to all continue beating the people. But what I don't realize again is the system is failing, because now your whole body system, the whole body mechanism is now being forced to work extra because of the experience that is going through your whole body system. So as a community now, if we are trained, if everyone in the community is quickly trained to detect that there's an experience, there's an example of drug abuse, then we need to take them to what? To the treatment rehabilitation center. But because it's not there, we'll just ignore and talk about it on this show. But right now, as we're talking about it, a lot of youth are already what? They are taking the drugs. Because there's nothing that can help them to stop.
All right, maybe just to acknowledge some of our followers who are following us on Facebook. We have Ruth Chimutingiza, thank you very much for following us. Obet Gutu, Molondo, Lozind Lovo, and then Esther Gertrude Majaja, Stanley C. Dewa. Now, Esther Gertrude Majaja is saying something here. He or she is saying, youth are bored. They have nothing to do, no jobs, some even educated. The future for them is damned. Given Zim's situation, there is no hope for better future for them. Government should create recreational centers to build back youth future. Thanks very much, Esther. We really appreciate your support, and thanks very much for following us. What do you have to say about what Esther is saying here?
I think exactly what I've been
you've been saying, yes.
What I've been saying on the treatment rehabilitation center, on the rehab center, detection centers, all of that, it's needed in a country that really wants to govern the issue of drug abuse, especially on young people.
Now, Stanley C. Moyo Dewa is saying something also, and thanks very much, Stanley C. Dewa, for following us. We are live on Facebook. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel, News MTV. Now, Stanley C. Moyo Dewa says, no matter how tough the law can be, you spoke about the law, you did. No matter how tough the law can be, it will always remain the same, because even the law enforcement are also taking the drugs and they get bribed easily. So if the law enforcement officer is corrupt, definitely the community will be. I think there's something about corruption which is being mentioned here. What do you have to say?
The whole issue of corruption is like when you asked me that first question that I gave an example to say, yes, we might be tough on the youths, but the bigger question that we have is, how are these drugs coming into the market? And most of these drugs are coming from Mozambique and South Africa. So you can't just drive a truck full of bronco straight into Zimbabwe and straight into the market and then sell it. There is a system. Where is the system failing, or how is it failing to detect all this that we are? Yes, if you look at the pharmacies have become a bit tough. You notice you can't buy any medication without prescription. Even those coffee syrups, a lot of coffee syrups, Histalics, you cannot buy that without prescription.
Yeah, sure.
But how are we able now to see all those empty bottles of and other stuff in the streets early in the morning? Where are they coming from? So corruption is not something that we can just talk about. It's happening and it's there.
Now the big question is, how are these bottles we see of Bronco coming into the country? Are you saying we should have maybe officers from the UN to guard you?
I think obviously, because we as Zimbabwe, we are signatories to the United Nations.
Yes.
Right? So which means everything that the United Nations does, as a country which is a signatory to, we are bound to follow those rules and international laws and international treaties that come about. like I mentioned earlier on, that we are members of the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime.
Mm.
There are a lot of agendas that are being discussed. There are a lot of resolutions that are passed through that agency, but not even one. Maybe it won't be amazing that most of the people have actually started to hear about that today. But yet we are signatories and we are supposed to be following and abiding by the laws of that commission, but it always comes back again.
All right, that was Mcleo Mapfumo, who is a former youth advisor at World Federation of United Nations Association, and currently he is the Deputy Director of International Youth Society. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of this show. You can also follow us on our website, that is www.newzimbabwe.com. Follow us on Twitter, that is newzimbabwe.com. You can continue following us on Facebook, which is the one that you are following now. It's newzimbabwe.com, as well as our YouTube channel, that is a New Zim TV. My name is Tatenda Dembeza, and thanks for having you along.